Dave Smith in this video destroyed, annihilated Zionism. Take a listen.
See, peace is hard. I'm trying to keep the peace. Now, Dave, I want to give you an opportunity, about 4 minutes to respond to that. But also, I do want to, now that we had the opening salvos and the Tomahawk missiles launched, let's respond as you see fit. No, and then bring us to the 12-day war. Because let's stay focused on that.
Yeah,
we can.
Well, the thing, Charlie,
but defend yourself.
Sure.
Obviously.
Well, the thing is, Charlie, as you may have noticed, some of you may have seen some of my other debates. Every single time, I come up here to debate issues, and they come up here to debate me and my character. It's all they have every single time, because they can't actually take on any of the arguments. And so the most pathetic low-hanging fruit of, you guys like Trump, this guy said bad things about Trump. Listen, guys, I'm a free American. I supported Donald Trump in this last election. Yes, he did just actively cover up a giant child rapist ring, and I'm going to criticize him for that, okay? And I'm sorry, after all these years of us right-wingers saying, protect the children, come on, that's bad for your soul if you don't. You speak up about that. It's horrible what he's doing. And, you know, as far as the actual substance of what Josh said here, which there really wasn't much, but I already pointed this out the last time we debated, his topic about how Sharon was against the war in Iraq is total nonsense. Sharon's envoy initially opposed it when he found out that Bush was going to invade Iraq, not because he didn't want Saddam Hussein to be overthrown, but because he wanted regime change in Iran first. And then, when the George W. Bush administration assured him that Iran would come next, they got on board with it and they started pumping out all types of propaganda about how Saddam Hussein's nuclear secret sites that didn't exist. And Benjamin Netanyahu, the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history, that year in 2002, came to Congress and testified under, a congressional testimony that anyone can go watch, and advocated not that the U.S. let Israel do it, but that the U.S. overthrow Saddam Hussein. I believe his words were, I guarantee that peace will spread through the region. And he also advocated that we overthrow Muammar Gaddafi and the mullahs in Iran. So you're just wrong about it. That's not true. And yes, have I been critical of Donald Trump when I think he gets things wrong? Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we should do. This is America. You criticize the government when they get things wrong. And so I don't even know what else.
Josh, wait 1 sec, Josh. I got to keep the peace here. Dave, about a minute-ish.
Okay.
A minute and a half. No, I'm taking the right time. I'm just...
Look, as far as
take about a minute and a half and try to do the 12-day war thing.
Yeah, sure. As far as the 12-day war goes, I mean, look, I'll be honest. Donald Trump, it might be the greatest thing he's ever done in his life that at the end of the 12-day war, after the Iranian response was as weak as it was, and they gave us advanced warning, so there were no American casualties, he started pushing for a ceasefire. And that was great that he did that. But the point is that the war never needed to be launched to begin with. Iran did not have nuclear weapons. Iran, according to all of the intelligence, including our director of national intelligence, until a day after Israel bombed them and she changed her mind, go read the annual threat assessment from earlier this year. Iran had not made the political decision to acquire a nuclear weapon, and they were in negotiations with Donald Trump at the time to bring their enrichment down. There was just no need other than the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu wants that regime overthrown.
Josh, feel free to respond. Thank you.
I'd be curious if Dave Smith also believes in the tooth fairy and pink unicorns.
I think that Dave Smith, being a conservative, talking here about how he should be criticizing Donald Trump, and he's at the same time saying Donald Trump did the right thing by stopping the war after 12 days or end of the 12th day. I don't really agree with his assessment about Donald Trump's handling of the situation, because remember, he struck Iran in the middle of a negotiation. He was the one wanted a deal. He was the one who tore apart the JCPOA that was signed during the time of Obama to curb Iran's nuclear program and activities. He was the one quite literally responsible for Israel to panic the way they did. Obviously, they did not panic. It was all propaganda. But they would not have found more excuses to strike Iran had it not been Donald Trump scrapping that deal, the JCPOA. But here you have Dave Smith praising Donald Trump, how he stopped it. But at the same time, I like Dave Smith because He, even though, as we have heard, he is a conservative, he's a right-winger, he supports Trump, but he's very, very cautious. He is making his points very, very clear to all of us that he is against genocide, even though he did not call explicitly, now the word important here, explicitly what is happening in Gaza as a genocide. He said it is close the border to the border of genocide. He did not call it a genocide. He also is the one, Dave Smith, who actually talked about the Hannibal Directive, how it was used, but he blamed Hamas at the end of the day for all the massacre on October 7th, when the Hannibal Directive clearly revealed that at least 700 out of 1,200, more than actually 700 people were killed by Israeli forces. But I mean, I support him to an extent, Dave Smith, because he is standing up for points and for causes that we believe in, being pro-Palestinian, myself, pro-life. I should call myself pro-life. But at the same time, we have to be very, very cautious in how we see and analyze his talks.
Questions now. Okay?
Yeah, but I want to respond to some of this stuff, because all of that's wrong.
You will. Hold on. I don't want us to talk past each other, else we're going to spend all this time on prime ministers in 2002 that the audience doesn't know about.
No, but if he's making claims about like something that's just not true.
I want you to get to that. I want to just ask a very simple question. From your perspective, because I just asked the tough one to Josh, are you okay, or do you think we should do anything to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb?
Anything, sure. Yeah, there's lots of things I think we should do.
Is military action ever justified?
Well, again, yes, there are times when military action is justified, but if you're saying what we could do to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, what we were doing, Donald Trump was in negotiations with them, and I think he should have continued those. And the truth is that the big problem with the JCPOA that Obama got us into was that there were sunset provisions. They opened up a whole new inspections regime. It is not true that the IAEA is saying that Iran was about to get a nuclear weapon. Anybody you want, it's published online. You can go read the conclusion of their last report, where they explicitly said Iran does not have nuclear weapons and is not trying to develop them. They are enriching at 60%, and they were in negotiations to maybe bring that down. But when you bring up the fact of the Marines getting killed in 1983, it's actually an interesting. Ronald Reagan, who was president at the time, he wrote about this in his memoir. Now, if you know what Ronald Reagan did, was he pulled out after that. He turned tail and run. And he said in his memoir, he said, I underestimated the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics, and we never should have gotten involved in that. Now, if you want to say that Iran backed them, okay, couple years after that, Charlie, there was a scandal in the Reagan administration. It was the something Contra, Iran-Contra. That's right. Ronald Reagan was selling weapons to the Iranians a couple years after this happened. So to come back now 40 plus years later and use that as the excuse why we got to go to war with Iran. I mean, just think about how crazy this is. And the stuff he said about the roadside bombs in Iraq is just not true. It's been debunked. It's more war propaganda that's been debunked. I highly recommend anyone can read the book Enough
Have
Already.
Have you spoken to a
Josh? 1 second.
I highly recommend people read the book Enough Already. It is the best book that's been written about the terror wars by Scott Horton. He has all the footnotes in there. You can go through it yourself. It's completely debunked. Those roadside bombs were built by Shiites in Iraq. Now, some of them did have relationships with Iran, but the majority of Iraq is Shiite. So yes, we invaded the next door country and we got into some fights with the Shiite groups there. But to say that's a reason why we now have to invade Iran or we have to bomb them or something, it just doesn't make any sense.
One or two really quick, Chris, follow-ups,
Sure.
and then we'll do this. Both sides need to get under good cross-examination. Do you think it would be bad if Iran got a nuclear bomb?
Yes, I think it's bad. I think it's bad.
And I think we can all agree on that. That is a moral agreement.
I don't think anybody should be allowed to have nuclear weapons secretly.
If you want to learn Python for...
That's exactly what I was looking for from Dave Smith. What about Israel having a nuclear weapon? What you have to say about that? He opened up about this a little bit, looks like, but let's see what he will add to that.
Right, and so...
How about that?
I will ask Josh about that, because that's a not-so-subtle dig at Israel. However,
hold on, are you suggesting that Israel has nuclear weapons?
I don't know, actually. They probably do.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know the intelligence. I'm not that of DNI, but I mean, they probably do. But let me ask you, Dave. Now, another question.
How pathetic Charlie is. how pathetic this guy is. Kirk, he is denying that Israel has nuclear weapon. How pathetic. We know Charlie is a liar. He's a serial liar. He lies through his teeth. The moderator I'm talking about is sitting in the middle. This guy is a complete lunatic when it comes to Zionism. He is completely mad. He's saying Israel doesn't have. I mean, how many times Israel would try to hide it, but they will be eventually found out they have nuclear weapon.
What is your, now, let's just say, criticism? No U.S. troops were killed. It required no U.S. troops on the ground. There was no war. It lasted 12 days. Fordo was pretty eliminated. I mean, even the Iranians say it. So looking at it now, 12 days later, what is your problem with what seems to be a masterclass in 12 days, in, out, no problem, no U.S. troops, and we've kind of moved on? What would your problem with that be?
You know, I think, and I do think there's something really sick and poisoning about this, is that our country has become so addicted to war that if we launch a war and you go, well, hey, it wasn't a complete catastrophe. I mean, 1 million people didn't die in this one like in Iraq, or hundreds of thousands didn't die in this one like in Afghanistan or Libya or Syria. It's like, okay, look, people died in this war, okay? There were both Iranian civilians and Israeli civilians who died in this war. It was a terrible thing for them and their families. This was a catastrophe. And my point is that the war never needed to be launched to begin with. But there's no reason why we even have to be enemies with Iran. They oppose no, this is a third world country in the Middle East that does not have nuclear weapons, does not have intercontinental ballistic missiles, does not have an air force capable of hitting us with anything. This is Israel's problem. We don't need to be involved in this. Sorry, we got our own issues here. And look, again, I'll give Donald Trump credit that, okay, it didn't turn into a catastrophe. He took the off-ramp when he had the chance. But look, a lot of that was out of Donald Trump's control. The risk of this war, like a lot of people love to, like Josh likes to read my tweets when I was saying this could turn into a catastrophe.
Because you were dead wrong. You look stupid.
Oh. Josh. Guys,
Okay.
don't say...
Hold on. No.
Let's de-escalate the stupid stuff.
No, actually, what Josh is saying is the lowest IQ argument that anyone can make. I was warning that there's a risk of a catastrophe, and he's saying you're stupid because there wasn't a catastrophe. This is on the level of playing Russian roulette, and if the bullet doesn't go off, you go, see, dummy, you were warning that could go bad. That doesn't prove anything. Listen, for all you guys, you talking about how big and bad the Iranians are and what a scary threat they are, what if they hadn't given us advance notice? What if Iran was actually as suicidal as people like Josh pretend they are? And what if their response had killed a few hundred Americans in the region, which by all military assessments, they are capable of doing? What would Donald Trump have had to do then, Charlie? What would he have done?
I'm not the moderator.
No. Okay, sorry.
Like, come on, Dave.
It was a rhetorical question.
I know, but both sides are getting tough questions here.
I mean, again, he is talking about Iran war, Zionism, and all that. Do I agree with everything he's saying? Dave Smith, I don't. But a lot of the points he's making 100% sense. Let me know what your thoughts, your comments in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel. See you in the next one.